This is the Eye for an Eye channel, or this is the United, or this is the Uprising Revival channel. It's one of the above. Make sure you're subscribed to all three because I'm having trouble getting videos up on one specific channel versus the other, which tells me the algorithm really has no clue. And what they do is they flag these channels, and then anytime you upload from that point forward, once the channel's flagged, it goes into the demonetization window, which means you're on your way of getting thrown out of the YouTube Partner Program, which means the algorithm is churning to make sure your channel no longer gets recommended to anyone. Thus, that is what shadow banning really is, even though people out there seem to think shadow banning means they make a channel and nobody watches their videos. Well, again, the only way to get into the YouTube, the only way to get new subscribers and to get recommended is to be in the YouTube Partner Program. That's why it's important to have, and I have to build out new channels, get them approved. It's not for the $30, $50 ad revenue that you get per day, which is really nothing. You can't even get half of your groceries with that, really. But the point is that more people see it. So if you haven't subbed to the other channels, do it now. But this story has to be covered. And it's so amazing that this story is happening at the exact same time as all that noise over in the land of bagels over there. 23andMe, user data stolen. Oh no, it goes deeper, right? Yes, the DNA data has been stolen on 23andMe, but specifically targeting the users who are identified as Ashkenazi. There you go. Of course, they don't want you to know about that in the Khazars. That's what the website's for. But yes, the specific people who are mentioned in the book of Revelation, of course. If you don't know Revelation, a lot of Christians do not like to read the book of Revelation because it's a very doom and gloom for them. But in that book, they talk about a certain group of people who say they're something and are not, and are of the synagogue of Satan. So isn't it interesting that this story happens at the same exact time as that other story is happening, the big story over in Bagel Land? Very interesting how these two things line up with one another, isn't it? So over the years, I've warned everybody about 23andMe. I've warned everybody about the DNA and what it's about. They've lured people into submitting their DNA. Now they're doing something, obviously, worldwide at the moment with people's DNA and their genetic codes. Remember Klaus Schwab's eerie words about how they're going to change you? Literally, under your skin, change you, change your genetic code. They want everybody's DNA structure, okay? That's what all this stuff with the celebrities coming out and pretending to tell you, because it's not really the real truth. Otherwise, the whole show about the celebrities and ancestry, about who they're related to, the roots and the connections and how they're all, they would just go on there and they'd be like, hey, we're all related. They should just have every single celebrity on there and just go, hey, we're all related. Joke's on you. But they don't do that, do they? Now, of course, they touch on a little bit of the history. If you haven't seen my previous videos, even with Jeff Daniels of Dumb and Dumber fame, the guy who takes the big dump and Dumb and Dumber. Yeah, well, that's Jeff Daniels. So he's being pushed again in society. And of course, he goes on there to shame his former relatives who were people, family members who were involved in the witch trials and were involved in, the butchering of witches. How horrible, right? Of course he was, because of course he go on there pushing that, because that's what this stuff's all about, right? It's agenda after agenda after agenda. All the relatives of these people are all the same people they're interviewing on the show, but they do this to lure people into submitting their DNA. And the dumb blindly do it. I've talked about over the years the Masonic program, how the Masons who sit there and pretend to do nothing except be, all about kids and all about charity, the Shriners at the hospitals. What are they involved in? Well, they'll show their face at, local parades to make it seem like there aren't Satanists in your town who are doing bad things inside their lodge, plotting against, all other Americans or all other citizens, I should say, because it's not just in America. But they also have this program where they want kids' DNA because, if your kids get lost, the Masons will help you find it. I mean, it's amazing how the level that they go to get people's DNA. So now there's a story about DNA stolen, but the victim isn't you and me. Of course, the victim is the victim. The same ones who are always the victim of this. Very coincidentally, the same thing is going on right now over in the land of bagels. But here are some of the news clips about the database of nearly 1 million people who had Ashkenazi heritage showing up on dark web forums. It sounds like they could be targets, ladies and gentlemen. Of course they'll be targets as sympathy builds and garners for a specific group of people who you're not allowed to talk about. Pretty amazing that people don't see what's going on yet. Take a look.
Meanwhile, a hacker is listing millions of pieces of stolen data from the family genetic site 23andMe for sale online. That information belonging mostly to people of Ashkenazi ancestry. 23andMe acknowledged the leak, but insists the company itself wasn't hit. They say the hacker took usernames and passwords from other hacked websites and tried them on 23andMe. The hacked data includes regional locations and pictures. Customers are urged to change their passwords and to use two-factor authentication.
Welcome back in tonight's Tech Talk. A hacker is claiming to be selling millions of stolen data from the genetics website 23andMe. It's up for sale on underground sites, and the first batch includes information on people with Ashkenazi ancestry.
23andMe has acknowledged the leak, but said the company itself has not been breached. Instead, they say it seems the hacker collected passwords and usernames that were stolen from other hacked sites and then just tried them on 23andMe.
For more insight on this, cybersecurity expert David Jared Jodis, the chief insurance officer with Embroker, joins us tonight. We appreciate you being here tonight.
Thank you.
So the company says, as Shayna said, they weren't necessarily hacked. This is a case of entering in passwords and usernames to see if they would work. How is that even possible? And who's really in the market for this?
This is a huge problem with reusing passwords and email addresses, and people do it all the time. This is the exact issue you run into. It's called credential stuffing. When these other sites end up getting compromised, then it makes that information available. And it's not an individual that goes in, a hacker that's looking to one by one type in the username, password, get into an account. It's all automated. So they're using programs and they're doing it on a widespread basis. So you're able to do it very effectively, very efficiently, and very quickly.
So they claim to be selling this information. We don't know if anyone's auctioning or looking to actually purchase it, but they posted this somewhere where thieves often advertise leaked data. What is all that about?
That's correct. There are a number of forums where you can advertise and sell and post compromised credentials, financial data, credit card information. Several of these forums exist all over the place. This one particular forum is hosting this data right now. So the question is, who's going to be the buyer of this type of information? It's a little bit unique, the data that's involved in this one. We're not talking about social security numbers. We're not talking about financial data. We're talking about national origin information, names, profile. So it's a very unique set of data that I think presents a different threat along with it.
Well, that's leading my next question. What would you do with this information? How would it be used? You can understand when we see hacks and other issues where you're demanding money, but in this case, what can be done with this kind of information?
On one end of the spectrum, which I think is the lower risk, you do have the opportunity to be phished, to have somebody come after you to try to lure you into gaining additional information. All the data that you can pull together just presents a greater, stronger case for an attacker to social engineer against you. But on the other end of that spectrum, we have to worry about discrimination, hate crimes, stalking. When you have data that's lumped together that categorizes a particular ethnicity, a background on somebody, that presents a different threat. That I think discrimination and stalking can come into play with that.
So again, isn't it interesting? 1 million people, and the only people who are being targeted are these specific people who are currently throwing their hands up and being victims at a time where what's happening? A mass awakening is beginning to happen because more people are awake now than they were 5 or 6 years ago. Somebody commented recently and said something along the lines of like, when you first started, what the world looked like versus now. And it's only been, 7, 8 years on YouTube, even though I'm a new YouTuber. Pretty much saying that so much has been revealed since then. So much of the stuff I was talking about then, it was like, oh yeah, but they weren't meddling in your life openly yet. So people were kind of just like, what do I care? Now everybody's starting to see this stuff. So as people see it, they're afraid that people are going to connect the dots more and more and realize who's actually behind everything. So they have to make sure not only are they victims in the eyes of everybody and targets in the eyes of everybody, but they also need to have, because they're victims, there'll be more laws and rules put in place so that you can't even say anything about these people, which should make everybody suspicious, but it doesn't seem to, especially a lot of Christians out there who just don't get what's going on. And that's why the alt-right will be able to, beat the drum on this topic, and I won't. But that's okay, because I'm not going anywhere. Even if they try to jail me, I will not shut up. I will go to jail, and I will build an army in jail. I will not stop speaking. They could put me in solitary confinement. I trust in the Lord. I know that I'm supposed to speak on these things. This needs to be and should be a fair fight, and they're making it not a fair fight, which just shows you what a loser Satan is and his synagogue is. Because this should be a fair fight where information's freely given on all sides, but it's not. it's not a fair fight. They're making it not a fair fight. And they're making it to the point where you can't ask questions about specific things that certain people are behind. And that's all the chaos in the world that they're doing, including, like I talk about on the website, Uprising Revival, for people that need to know and understand that these people are attacking their own people. Do people not get that? It's not who you think is attacking. Just like America, our government's attacking us. They're making it think that it's the people attacking one another. It's our own governments. They're attacking everyone. They've turned on the civilians. All of them are working, conspiring, making boogeymen of other countries so that nobody wakes up to who's really behind it. Because this small group would be done, over, finito, if people woke up to it. But they are doing everything they can so that you don't get that information. So hackers have apparently compiled a large list of people with Ashkenazi ancestry after taking their information from South San Francisco-based genetic testing service 23andMe. They're sharing the information online. The implications are very serious, especially with the rise of far-right extremism. The company says it is investigating how this happened, but it believes hackers only needed a few user passwords because of the site's ability to link users with even distant genetic matches. So now they're making the claim because they pretty much, look, they lump me and you in to the far-right extreme, even though I'm not far-right. I'm not a Republican. I don't vote. None of us do, for the most part, because we know it's what it's really about, voting, you know, and how it's a herding mechanism, and your vote doesn't count. But anyway, they say the implications are very serious with the rise of far-right extremism. The database of nearly 1 million people with Ashkenazi, I'm trying to say it different so the algorithm can't pick it up, heritage is showing up on dark web forums. The information includes first and last name, evaluation of where the person's ancestries came from, etc. So they're pretty much saying here that people who are far right, which again, we know that's lumped in with what? Conspiracy theorists and Christians, that's what they're trying to say, are looking for these people. The next stories we're going to hear out of this is they're trying to identify who's of this bloodline, and then they want to have a war with those people. They want to exterminate. Those are the narratives that they're going to push. Okay? And then that is going to herd more and more of these liberal lunatics into sympathizing with these people as victims when these people have never been the victims. Ever. That's the big bully on the block. That word I said that starts with A-S-H, Ash. That's the bully on the block. That's the one responsible for all the chaos that's going on. It's responsible for all the perversion that's being normalized. That group, they've hijacked a certain land where bagels run prominent with cream cheese. Okay? They are not victims. They've never been victims. They've been behind every event that's ever happened, and they continue to be, even in their own land. That's how insane this is. Their own land. They're causing this on their own people, and nobody sees it. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous what's going on. So the story comes out about now, conveniently at the same time. So we're going to see this massively moving forward, where these people are going to continue to be targets of conspiracy theorists, which is going to make more and more people side with them, which is going to take more and more of our rights away from exposing them, because the last thing they could have happen is this getting exposed. This is the big secret. This is the thing they don't want you to know about. This is why I can only talk about it in real words over on the website. This is why they've shut down people like Ted Pike, and the ADL lives pretty much gang stalking anybody that speaks against them. That's why, because you can't learn the big secret about who's behind all of it. Because when you find out it's really the victim who's been responsible for all the chaos, well, then everything would get back to normal once these people are taken care of. But they won't be. That's the point. And when I say taken care of, I just mean jailed, you know? I mean, or the same thing that's happened in every other time period, run out of their countries. But now, I mean, they've infiltrated everywhere, so it's pretty hard to do that because the global government is these people. And we're seeing right now firsthand exactly what they're capable of and just how important it is to keep their secret. And that's why stories like this conveniently come out at the same exact second. Who is it? Who's responsible? Oh, it's just some alt-right boogeymen. Oh, okay, so we're all going to believe it. Who are they? It's in their basement. They're hacking because they want first, last name on these people. And if they're a part of that bloodline, what could that mean? What could they possibly want it for? Well, clearly they're preparing people for some type of false flag event on these people so they can blame it on alt-right extremists, jail people, and on top of that, of course, continue to censor free speech so that you can never even say the word or you're an anti-you-know-what. That's all I'm going to say here because it's probably get a strike, whatever channel this is on. Make sure you're subbed to my other channels and make sure you join the website, Uprising Revival, if you haven't yet. I appreciate everybody being here. Hope you're doing well. God bless all of you, as always, and your families.